many of us, all of us really, myself included, are living on the ends of strings that other people pull. You with me? Howard Thurman said that, yeah. Okay, Howard Thurman was a black theologian, mystic, who mentored Dr. King. And Howard Thurman knew what it was like to be pulled by the strings of others in a world that tries to make us a puppet. But he also knew what it meant to let go and to cut those strings. What are your strings? The news? The expectations? The old wounds? The voice that says, you're never good enough? The endless demands? The 47 unread emails you're pretending don't exist? The feeling that you're always falling short? The strings pull us apart until we are fragmented, scattered, split, exhausted. And somewhere in all that noise, we lose track of something essential. The sound of the genuine within ourselves. And what we lose is our aliveness, our humanity, our divinity. We're invited to be, to find our way back, to let go of the strings, to become alive, because as Howard Thurman said, that's what the world needs. More people who are alive. The sound of the genuine. Thurman says, and I'd like to read it again, he tells us that within every person there is an inward sea. Do you know that sea? Listen to how he says it. There is in every person an inward sea. And in that sea, there is an island. And on that island, there is an altar. Standing guard before that altar is an angel with a flaming sword. This is your crucial link to the eternal. There is something in everyone that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine within yourself. It is the only true guide you will ever have. And if you cannot hear it, you will, all of your life, you will spend your days on the ends of the strings that somebody else pulls. In every one of us, every person. The only true guide. Not your pastor, not your spouse, not your best friend, not your therapist, not your anxious thoughts. The genuine. The essential you underneath all the strings. And if you cannot hear it, Thurman warned you will spend your life on the ends of strings that somebody else pulls. Thurman's grandmother was born enslaved and taught him the world can take everything away except your soul. They can't touch the island in your inward sea. She told him that during slavery, white preachers preached. She hated Paul's gospel for this reason. Slaves, obey your masters. using scripture as a whip. But she said, don't you listen to that. That's not genuine, but Jesus, I can trust. I can trust Jesus. Even religion can be a string. When Thurman visited Gandhi in India in 1935, Gandhi asked him, how can you be a Christian? Given what Christianity has taught black people? Thurman didn't defend the church. He said, I go to the source. I go to Jesus. Not to what people have done with Jesus, to the genuine. Gandhi understood. He told Thurman about soul force, about going to your inward sea, where the oppressor cannot reach you. Religion, even good religion, can pull our strings. Programs, guilt, shoulds, the voices that say you're not faithful enough, you should do more. That's why Thurman points us to the altar, to the place where it's just you and the holy. And that's the guard, the angel with the flaming sword to block the strings from pulling you, to be with the source. And this is survival wisdom from people of color. Howard Thurman, Gandhi, who knew what it was like to be oppressed by religion, by empire. They were dispossessed. And here we are receiving this gift, which others, like last week Robert mentioned Ida B. Wells and Fannie Lou Hamer, received this gift. People dispossessed by empire. So many of us have forgotten how to find this island. We're so busy. We're so pulled. We're so fragmented. Because we cannot be alive if we cannot hear the genuine within ourselves. When you find your altar on that island, when you hear the genuine, you discover something. Not what you should try to become, but what you already are. Thurman called this the ground of being, your crucial link with the eternal, your essential nature that no one can take away from you. And Jesus had a different word for it. Jesus stood on that hillside and looked out at the sea of exhausted, fragmented, dispossessed people and said, you are the salt of the earth. Salt? Is that the word you'd pick if you were trying to start a movement, an empowering movement? I would have said eagles or lions or something. Salt. Salt? What's with salt? Jesus wasn't a chemist, but salt is sodium and chloride bonded together. Separately, they're wildly dangerous. Sodium explodes in water and chlorine is poisonous gas. Apart, they're destructive. Bonded together, they become something completely different. Stable, life-giving, essential. That's the chemistry. Who knows, maybe Jesus did know. The divinity in him knew somehow. Now hear the parable. Our raw human tendencies on their own can become explosive, toxic, destructive. But bonded, NaCl, in covenant, joined to God and one another, or the holy, whatever, Jesus had to rename Abba, whatever that inner sanctuary is, the genuine, the I am place, whatever you might call it. So many names for the divine, for the holy, for Yahweh, Elohim. Okay. We become, when we are joined, when we remember that we are joined, we remember who we are. And we become a blessing that preserves and nourishes, preserves like salt. Fragmented, we become dangerous. Bonded, we become salt. And what we now know is our bodies can't survive without salt. It regulates every heartbeat, every nerve impulse that happens. Salt preserves. It creates an environment, as it did in the times of Jesus and Gandhi, to preserve food like meat and fish, where corruption and rot cannot take hold. Salt seasons. Just a few grains transforms everything. But salt can lose its saltiness. Not pure salt, chemically, NaCl, but the salt, the impure Dead Sea salt of Jesus' time, moisture can leach in. It can leach out of the actual salt, leaving this white crust that looks like salt, but has no flavor. It was separated from what made it salt. We can look religious, look like we have it all together, but if we are separated from our source, if we lose the memory, the consciousness that we are connected, then we become cut off from our altar, unable to hear the genuine. We lose our flavor, our distinctiveness, our soul. We become bland. But Jesus' listeners heard something. I mean, when we think of salt, I think of table salt, and it's like, how ordinary is that, It's inexpensive, it's nothing, In Jesus' time, Rome controlled the salt trade. Rome taxed it. Salt made empires rich. So when Jesus told the poor, occupied people, "You're the salt of the earth," he was saying something dangerous. You are essential. You are precious. You have inherent worth that no one can take away. No empire can control. Your saltiness, your essence, your bond with the eternal, that's yours. Jesus says, you are salt. Not try to become, you already are. But many of us have lost our taste. going through the motions, doing church, becoming religious, but bland, disconnected, separated from the altar, cut off from the genuine. In 1930, the British Empire made it illegal for Indians to make their own salt. It was exactly what Rome had done. Control the salt, control the people. Gandhi, who'd read Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, understood this. So he decided to take the metaphor literally. He said, I'm going to walk to the sea and make salt. He called it Sati Raga, soul force. Without prayer, without going to your inward sea, we react out of our ego, out of fear. But when we find that quiet center, we act out of our soul. Gandhi walked 240 miles, 24 days. And when he reached the sea, and he picked up a lump of salt and said, with this, I am shaking the foundation of the British Empire. Within 17 years, 400 million people, dispossessed people, were freed. Think about that. One man, 240 miles, a handful of salt, and an empire shook. Not because of the salt, but because he found the island. And from that island, he couldn't be controlled. He became salt, so focused, so pure, so whole. It was light that compelled others to walk with him. That's what happens when we remember who we are. But even people who find their island lose it sometimes. The persecuted. Dr. King, who'd read Howard Thurman, Jesus and the Dispossessed, and carried it in his back pocket all the time, as well as his Bible, he sat on his kitchen table one night in Montgomery. It was after these bombings. His house had been bombed. His wife and his baby barely escaped. Death threats were pouring in, and he lost it. He was done. He prayed. It was like midnight. It didn't sound what we might imagine would be a leader's prayer. He prayed the truth. He said, I am at the end of my powers. Oh God, I have nothing left. I've come to the point where I can't face it alone. I can't do this. I can't. And right there, in that surrender, when he stopped holding all the strings, he heard it. The genuine, clear, quiet, true. Martin, I am with you. Stand up for righteousness, stand up for truth, and I will be with you. Have you prayed that prayer? King got up from the table, his saltiness, his strength restored. Not because his circumstances changed, but because he reconnected with the ground of his being. This is the secret. We find it. How do we find that salt, that inward sea, our ground of being, our light? We find it when we admit we can't. It's when we don't have it all together. We're falling apart. We need help. When we let go of the strings and we fall into the sea. Not in our strength, although I'd like to challenge that idea of what strength is, in our surrender. The poor in spirit. I need you. I need you to survive. I can't do this without you. I know that prayer. Do you? So I spent a month away, and I prayed that prayer a lot. And I found my island. I was persistent. And you know what I did when I got back? Just maybe 36 hours, maybe 32. I lost track. I was too busy micromanaging the Google Forms, the website banner, the backup plan in case Robert Wilkins was too sick to come here last Sunday, answering every email, or almost every email, picking up every string, trying to be indispensable because my ego, the strings, were terrified. Because my ego said, if you are not needed, who are you? If you won't let go, will everything fall apart? I don't know about your ego, but mine has a very official sounding voice. It sounds like a responsible adult making wise leadership decisions. Turns out it's just fear, wearing a clergy stole. Ego, I think, is fragmentation, pretending to be a person. What is this facade, this collection of all of our defenses and strategies and roles that we think protect us? Ego is what separates us from our source, from our soul, from our union with the divine. But the genuine, the sound Thurman talks about, the Quakers talk about, Jesus talks about, waiting for you at that altar, that is who you really are. That voice that says, you are the beloved, you are mine. I am with you always. Ego is fragmentation. The genuine is wholeness, salt-like, essential, bonded to the ground of our being. And the ego, like salt, has to dissolve for the genuine to emerge. That's the paradox. We think if we dissolve, we'll lose ourselves. But when we dissolve, we find ourselves. Who do you say that you are? Who do you say that I am? It's a profound question. Salt that dissolves transforms everything. That's how you cut the strings. 5 minutes a day, listening for the genuine. So this week, when you feel that I cannot do this, stop, breathe, go, listen to that inward sea. Ask, what is the sound of the genuine in me today? If you're like me most days, you'll hear nothing. Static. Your to-do list. That's okay. You're training your ear. But keep showing up. That is the practice. This is the spiritual practice of people who needed it to survive. We need it to survive, to be alive. Let us receive it in gratitude. You are salt. You are light. You are essential. Yes, you are. Not because of what you do, but because of what you are. United, connected, one with the source, whole, essential. The genuine is waiting. Amen. Okay, and please join in our sermon response.